But first of all, let us kick off with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Sharon, would you like to take this off and tell us about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3? What are we dealing with this time?
Timeline-wise, it's part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and the Guardians have been in a little bit of a slump. They've had the whole thing with Thanos, where they were left a bit reeling from that. And then we met them again briefly at the Christmas special, where they were still trying to cheer up Peter by kidnapping Kevin Bacon, which managed to succeed. And they identified at that point that Peter and Mantis were actually related. They are half brother and half sister.
Yep.
And now and they are in a place called Nowhere, which is the head of this giant space
Celestial
god thing. A celestial. And so they actually, that is their like space station. They get their universes sort of end up there, and they're like using that as their headquarters. And we sort of meet them. Yeah, well, Peter's still in a bit of a slump, and all the others are like trying to do their best to sort of keep things together without Gamora, the Gamora that they knew. And so this is sort of where they are. They're not, in the best of places. And then everything starts kicking off. There's this mad scientist who I forget his name.
The High Evolutionary.
High Evolutionary, who has been tinkering around with species and with life forms for decades. And he was the evil genius behind Rocket Raccoon. And there's something special about Rocket, and this guy decided that he wants Rocket back, and he is going to do anything in his power to get Rocket back. And things happen in the attempt to recapture Rocket. He gets injured, and in order to save him, they have to then go into the heart of this mad scientist's lair to see if they can find the key to saving his life. And so the film is about this quest to save Rocket and sort of beat the evil genius. And also we see the backstory of how Rocket became this unique and remarkable little chap that he is.
As always, Sharon, lovely, succinctly summarized as to what this film's all about, or what this film's all about. So that's it. And obviously it's a Marvel movie, so they're going to get your shenanigans that go on from there. But that is the through line, is we've got to save Rocket, because if we don't do something, Rocket's going to die. And this is the big bad is the guy who wants Rocket, and they have to sort of like save Rocket while at the same time stopping Rocket falling into these guys' hands. So that was it. Holly, what did you think of this?
Loved it. Absolutely loved it. Unsurprisingly. There was laughter, there were tears, there was outright sobbing from somebody sitting next to us in the cinema. Proper loud crying. I thought it was great fun, and actually quite a lot better than I expected. As I wanted to see it, but I was probably a little bit more on the fence about it than I'd expected to be, because I'd had mixed views of 2.
Oh, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Yeah, I'd still liked it, but it wasn't my favourite Marvel film.
Yeah.
So I thought it was good fun.
Yeah, I think that the Guardians is a very specific tone, even within Marvel stuff. Guardians, I mean, the fact is that because they've done this whole thing where every Guardians movie has started off with a song, and has started off with a whole sequence set to a song. So the first one was Come and Get Your Love. The second one was Mr. Blue Sky. And then this one, I mean, the fact that, because obviously after a while, Marvel can also feel a bit samey. We're being given the same thing over and over again. But when a film starts with a computer-generated raccoon walking around listening to Radiohead's Creep, okay, straight away you're like, okay, yeah. Now I remember why the Guardians are different. Now we're in different territory. So, but anyway, Sean, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, we're talking about the music. What a terrific soundtrack! I mean, and even when they played Flaming Lips, do you realise? And it was like, I thought, oh my god, it's terrific.
James Gunn does good, very good soundtracks. Each one of his films is notable for the soundtrack.
It was interesting to see that he actually got fired, didn't he? And then no one said they won't make it unless Gunn did it, and they weren't going to do the film.
Yes.
That's what I heard. Yeah.
Yeah, Sean, that is actually what
Always.
happened. That's what happened. So there was a problem with James Gunn where they found some old tweets that he wrote, and so some people kicked off about it, and then James Gunn got fired, but there was an opera and he got rehired to do Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. But it is the final thing that he's going to be doing for Marvel because he's now going to be the head of DC and everything that they're doing over at DC. Can you guys still hear me?
Oh.
We've got the Flash coming out soon.
Yes. We got the Flash. The Flash looks interesting.
Does look interesting.
All right. Okay. So anyway, I'm not sure how much of that you guys got because I think my connection was going down a bit again. I can only apologize. So Sean, what else did you think of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3?
Okay. Yeah. I mean, well, I saw this twice, so that must speak very highly of it. Yeah. I have to say, I agree with Holly. I'm not. It's funny lately. I mean, I've never really been emotional in films, but lately, I don't know why. I don't know what it is. Where I've got quote. It was a Whitney film, and
Oh yes, I
I
remember
was
that.
with somebody, and when they're singing the national anthem, brought tears to my eyes. And in this, I actually welled up a couple of times. And having seen it twice, when I watched it the second time, I'm really pleased I did, because I saw a lot of like little bits of extra stuff that I probably missed before. So yeah, no, terrific movie. Really, really enjoyed it. And I thought the actual CGI, because I'm assuming those animals were CGI, was
Yes.
good. Really, I was impressed. Pardon?
Statistically speaking, probably. No.
Yeah. But
Well, it's also the fact that Disney have also committed to not having live animals in their films anymore, because they think it's cruel to have animals on set and make them go through all that stuff. So every time you see a film that is involved with Disney and you see an animal in it, the animal is not actually there. The animal is a CG creation.
I believe that American Humane Society was still involved, though, because we have a weird hobby of looking at the end of the film to see if they've been involved.
Yeah.
I cannot explain.
I
why.
think the only one I think was probably not CGI was Cosmo the Space Dog. Cosmo the Space Dog, I think was probably
I
an
liked
actual dog.
Cosmo as well. I thought I really liked Cosmo. What a great character. And
Yeah,
I quite liked some of the Reavers as well. I liked some of the Reavers.
Well, yeah, I think because that's the thing. Because for me, I think that Guardians of the Galaxy, it seems to exist in its own little world where it is not as linked to a lot of the other Marvel stuff as some other things might be. So, for instance, we saw Ant-Man and the Wasp, which I really quite like Ant-Man and the Wasp. But it did have that whole thing where you could feel that it was trying to set things up that are going to come in the future. And this film was notable because it felt very much like they weren't trying to set anything up whatsoever.
No, I was just about to say that. It was like sort of almost closure, wasn't it? It was most
Yeah,
right. Okay,
it was like
Guardians.
this is about the Guardians. We don't care about anything else. I mean, there are a couple of quibbles that I have because I always thought it was weird that I'm like, why is Gamora still around? It doesn't make any sense that Gamora is still around, and they even mention that in the film. It's like they know it, and I think it's an effect of how big Marvel has become, and then you have all these different filmmakers, and they want to tell this story, and so they go and they say, we want to do Endgame, and this is what's going to happen in Endgame, and James Gunn is like, I don't like that, I want to do the Marvels, and I still have stuff I want to do with that character, so he brings that character back in, and they find some way to make it work, and but the thing is, James Gunn has always come from a point of view of he just loves these characters and he loves the interplay between these characters. And I think he's got it so finely balanced that the characters, it's like a workplace, because there's a lot of times when Guardians feels like a workplace sitcom. Because it's like you have all these characters that just sort of balance and they bounce off each other and everything like that, and you're like, yeah, that's what they would do. That is what Drax would do. That's what Nebula would do.
I was going to say, I really warmed to Drax in this one. I've always thought he was sort of I mean, he's there, but he was never in this one. He was quite prominent in a lot of ways, really, which I quite like.
Yeah, I think they did a good job of making sure that they all kind of had something to do. I mean, I think Groot was his usual lovable self, but even I felt like it was upped a little bit. Obviously, this is mainly Rocket's story. Even though Rocket's out for it, I thought Adam Warlock, and I think the people who they add, so Will Poulter as Adam Warlock was hilarious. He was hilarious. Where he was like, oh, I'm not sure I like the way that made me feel.
Yeah.
It's-
And is that like a wombat thing he had? I can't quite work out what his little thing was.
oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
His
it's
wombat thing.
it's a new thing. They've brought out some new thing. But I have to think. But one of the things that James Gunn seems to be quite skilled with is making you care about CGI characters. Like I remember in the first Guardians movie, there's a bit with Groot that probably had most people crying, where like some of the last words Groot says in the film. And yeah, you're kind of thinking, oh my God, Groot and a rocket. And then when you think about it, you're thinking, hang on a second. That's a tree and a raccoon that are not actually there, but he's made an emotional connection enough. And with this, there's a whole bit, like in Rocket's backstory. I thought Rocket's backstory was actually really affecting.
Yes.
It was so affecting. And I was just kind of like, dang, he's doing it again. He's making you care. And you can see how much he cares for these characters. And so he translates that to you. Although, one thing I have to say, just before we move on, or before I let someone else wrap us up, before we move on, I was watching this, and I was thinking that the Guardians, as a franchise, as a mini franchise between the MCU, has a lot of similarities with a franchise that, Sean, you hate.
As in Fast and Furious, are we talking? No?
Yes,
Yeah.
we're talking that, because you have this misfit group of
family
people.
thing.
Everything's about family. They have this theme of bad guys becoming good guys, which happens throughout Guardians. If you think about it, in almost every Guardians movie, there's a bad guy who ends up becoming a good guy. and I was like, hang on. This is like a better made Fast and Furious movie, which, weirdly enough, seeing as the Fast and the Furious is supposed to be set in our world, Guardians of the Galaxy seems to have more of a regard for physics than Guardians of the Fast and Furious does.
For me, I mean, the difference being is that I think, I mean, it's just me thinks this, and people say no, it's not. But I think Fast and Furious tries to think of it as being serious, whereas Guardians of the Galaxy is in a total different universe with loads of stuff that we don't really know what's going on. And I shan't even bother going to see that Fast X or whatever it's called.
Sean, I've got to be honest with you. I've seen the trailers for Fast X, and this is the first Fast movie that I'm thinking, I don't think I can be bothered recently. Because Fast and Furious 9 was a stinking pile of, I've got a child here, so fill in the blank. It was a stinking pile. It was an insult to every intelligence ever. But anyway, but back to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. So I think we all really liked it. How many stars would you give this?
For me, it's close to a 5. It's close to a 5 for me. It had the whole. I mean, to watch it twice being a long movie, and both times it didn't seem like being a long movie. I think it's the best Marvel have done for a long, long, long time, because they were sort of. I think lately they've been not on their game quite so much, but I think this was a lovely finish to it, lovely to wrap it all up, and it was carefully thought about it, like your observation, where all the characters had stuff to do and all that. And yeah, I enjoyed it. So I am actually going to give this one a 5. I'm going to give this one
a 5 for Guardians of the Galaxy from Sean.
Me.
Yeah,
big one.
Sharon.
I'm going to go with a 4. I really enjoyed it. I like the characters. You say you identify, you really feel for the characters. Even some of the secondary ones, you're just like zoom zoom. Yeah. So I think I really liked it, but yeah, for me it's a 4.
Okay, Holly.
5.
Ooh, 5. So, and I would agree with Sharon, and I would give it a 4. I'll give it a 4 because I thought it was fun, but there are some things about it, like there's big world planet changing consequences in certain bits of this film that are brushed under the carpet and never spoken of again.
I mean, I can see that, but I mean, for the enjoyment factor, to watch it twice for the enjoyment factor, that doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, I can totally understand that. And Okay, no, that's a whole other topic. I was going to talk about the online trolls and what they did with Ant-Man compared to what they did with this film. But
have they been horrible then again? Have they, I mean, not that I don't really pay much to publicity, but has it had like lots of trolls slagging it off and stuff?
not this one, no. But they
No,
did with
no.
Ant-Man before they'd even seen it. They did. And I don't think Ant-Man deserved that. I actually really, really enjoyed Ant-Man.
Yeah,
And
I
so-
thought that was all right.
in some ways, and I know Sean, you do not agree. You will not agree with me on this. And I don't think many people. In some ways, I preferred Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania to this, and I thought it flowed better. But
Do you think, Toes? And I mean, I don't mean this in our way, but do you think you might have been quite distracted with taking Kemi? I mean, could that have been a little
no.
bit? I mean, I know you wouldn't because you'll be that, but there is a chance. I think sometimes.
There might be a chance. There might be a chance, but she was actually pretty good. She was actually quite engaged in the film. she was actually engaged in the film. So it was only she only has to use the toilet once before the end credits. Yeah. So it's but there was this whole thing where they seem to have decided. They've decided that we're gonna like this before it even comes out, or we're gonna hate this before it even comes out. And I think because of James Gunn. Oh no, everyone is frozen again on my screen.
Oh, right. Yeah. Wait.
Yeah, because of James Gunn, I think because he's going over to DC as well, I think a lot of the DC fans are kind of like, yeah, we're gonna like this as James Gunn, and they decided they were going to hate Ant-Man. But anyway, never mind.